Erika Antoinette Hill, 15 years old, with wide, innocent eyes and a quiet smile that hid worlds of pain. She wasn't the kind of girl who made headlines. She didn't vanish amidst a media frenzy. There was no Amber Alert, no citywide search. For 8 long years, no one truly knew she was even gone. But the truth was darker than anyone imagined. Erika lived in Fitchburg, Wisconsin, a bright student, soft-spoken, never causing trouble. But underneath, something was deeply wrong. She had been adopted as a toddler by a distant relative named Talon Minnie Hill, a woman who, on the surface, presented herself as a calm, attentive mother. And beneath that surface was a chilling secret. Because Erika wasn't missing. She was murdered. And she had been murdered by the very person who was supposed to love her. February 2007. The dead of winter. Erika was 15 years old, and according to official records, it was the last time anyone saw her alive. But no missing persons report was filed. No police questions. No Amber Alert. Her adoptive mother, Talon, never asked for help. Never called anyone. As far as the world was concerned, Erika Hill had simply faded into shadow. A troubled runaway, perhaps. Someone who walked away from her life without a trace. Except that wasn't true. Not even close. That same month, 270 miles away, on a frigid afternoon in Gary, Indiana, 2 brothers exploring a derelict garage stumbled onto something that didn't belong in the darkness. The smell came first. Then the sight, something charred, bent, and buried under debris. A body, brutally burned, hidden away like garbage. The Jane Doe had been dead for days, weeks perhaps. She was a teenager. She had been beaten, stabbed, suffocated. Her teeth were smashed out, and her skin told a story of torture, not just in death, but in life. Burns, scars, injuries in various stages of healing. This wasn't the work of a stranger. This was the work of someone who had access to her body, her life, every day. She was buried, nameless, in a numbered grave. No clue to her identity. No one came forward for her. Her killer was nowhere, and everywhere, at once. In the years that followed, Jane Doe became a cold case, one of countless murdered children no one could identify. One by one, forensic reconstructions were released to the public, a face built from bone, a hope that someone might recognize her. But no one did, until 2015. A young woman contacted police after years of silence. She wasn't seeking justice. She was desperate to unload a secret she had carried on her back since she was a child. Her voice trembled as she confessed what she had once been too afraid to say. That she believed the Jane Doe was Erika, her stepsister, and that their mother, Erika's adoptive mother, had killed her. She told them where the body had been moved. She described, in disturbing, traumatized detail, how Erika had been abused for years inside that home. How she and her siblings had helped wrap the body, transport it, dispose of it. How they had stayed silent all that time out of fear. Fear of the same violence, of being next. It was all true. DNA confirmed it. And 8 years after she vanished, Jane Doe finally had a name. Erika Antoinette Hill. But now came the real question. What really happened inside that house? What kind of monster murder is never reported? And how does a family bury a child in silence? The truth about Erika Antoinette Hill's disappearance wasn't found by detectives. It wasn't uncovered through a breakthrough in science. It wasn't even unearthed by a reporter hunting for justice. It came from a voice that had been silenced, a voice only 11 years old at the time of the murder, and she carried the weight of her sister's death like a ghost. In 2015, nearly 8 years after Erika had vanished, that little girl, older now, worn by secrets and guilt, walked into a police station and opened her mouth. What came out was a cold, quiet confession. My mother killed her, and we helped bury her. Her name has been withheld because of her age at the time, but her story was enough to reopen the case of Lake County Jane Doe and to give her a name, Erika Hill. She wasn't just a teenager whose life ended tragically. She was a prisoner in her own home. Every day inside that small Fitchburg apartment, Erika was abused. Not just physically, emotionally, psychologically. The torture was systematic, layered, deliberate. Talon Hill, her adoptive mother, didn't just hurt her. She controlled her. Erika was burned, beaten, and humiliated. She was starved and slapped, stabbed and screamed at. There were days she cried herself to sleep, and others where sleep didn't come at all. Her siblings saw it. They lived alongside it, hearing things that still echo in their nightmares. The girl who came forward said Erika had over 170 scars. One of the medical examiners called it one of the worst patterns of trauma I've seen in a child her age. But Erika didn't tell anyone outside that house. Why? Because she couldn't. Talon controlled everything. Who Erika talked to, where she went, when she ate, how she lived. She stripped that girl of freedom, then stripped her of life. It was February 2007 when it happened. They didn't give exact dates. Maybe they couldn't remember. Maybe trauma blurred all the edges. But they remembered this. Erika fought back that night, her final act. She was found beaten, limp, barely breathing. Talon stuffed a cloth in her mouth and held it there. When it was over, Erika lay still. Gone. The house fell into unnatural silence. No screaming, no footsteps. Just dread dripping into every corner of that living room. The siblings looked at each other and knew their sister was dead. The body stayed in the house for days. Days. Not because someone was planning something, but because Talon didn't know what to do. The siblings were ordered to clean up. Then, under cover of night, they moved Erika, first to a van, then to a bridge. Then, when she feared people might find her, Talon moved her again, wrapped in plastic, dumped in a garage in Gary, Indiana, burned, left to rot. It wasn't just murder. It was erasure. By the time the police came to collect the body, reported anonymously by 2 curious boys, there was almost nothing to go on. No teeth, no ID, just a teenage girl, burned beyond recognition, and no one called her name. Except 8 years later, the girl who had carried that secret in her chest like a ticking bomb. When detectives heard her story, they cried. They said later it was like hearing a ghost speak, not just for Erika, but for every child whose voice was silenced by their abuser. One detective put it simply, it wasn't just a murder. It was a stolen childhood, a stolen life. When Erika Antoinette Hill vanished on that crisp September morning in 1990, time didn't just move forward. It stretched painfully into an abyss of uncertainty. For her mother, Dorothy, a single adoptive parent, days became weeks, weeks became months, and months became years. But something inside her refused to let go. Erika was out there, alive, and she would find her. At first, the search had momentum. Flyers, news reports, door-to-door questioning. Detectives combed the paths around the apartment building Erika had been seen near. Eyewitnesses could only say they saw her walk off with a man. Unknown, unidentified, untraceable. The trail went ice cold. But Dorothy didn't sleep. She couldn't. Every creak of the floor, every ring of the phone, every missing child report. She lived in fear that the next call would confirm her worst nightmares. And yet, she also dreamed that the next one might be Erika, finally found. She attended every vigil, placed her daughter's photos on every community board she could find. It didn't matter that Erika was 9. Didn't matter that she had no clue what happened after she left that lot. Erika was her baby, and the world had stopped being safe the moment she disappeared. And then something happened. Years passed. 8, 10, 15. The world moved on. Crime shows came and went. Erika's picture faded from walls. Her case file slid further down into the dusty archive of unsolved missing children. But Dorothy never stopped calling, never stopped hoping. It was as if some eternal thread stayed tied between them. Something real, something living. But Erika wasn't just missing. She was gone, and not in the way people usually mean it. Far away, in a quiet Georgia town, a girl named Erika Johnson was growing up. She didn't look like her adoptive parents, but they loved her, and she loved them. Her early memories were foggy. A playground, a blocky brick building, a woman's voice calling her name. Then, nothing. Her adoptive parents said they got her legally, yet the whispers in town told a different story. Something about her not being their blood. At 16, Erika began to wonder. Who was she? Why did certain sounds trigger memories she couldn't place? Why did her hands tremble when she saw missing child posters? But her parents always smiled it away. "You're ours," they'd say. "Don't worry about who you were before." And she tried. She did. For years. But in January 2010, Erika would look in the mirror and feel something in her eyes staring back at her. Something that reminded her of that foggy morning long ago. A piece of herself she never named. She had no idea the truth was already walking toward her like a gathering storm. Because in Tennessee, Dorothy was about to dial a number that would change everything. On a frigid morning in January 2010, a phone rang inside Dorothy Hill's modest Tennessee home. She had grown older, her once black hair now silvering at the temples, but her voice was still clear, steady, even cheerful at times, but beneath it lay a grief that never fully healed. She answered that phone call like any other. She never expected it to change her life. "Mrs. Hill?" said a soft voice on the other end. "Yes, this is she," Dorothy replied, bracing herself. "This is Detective Spencer from DeKalb County. I believe we've found your daughter, Erika." The world might as well have stopped spinning. Dorothy clutched the counter, eyes squeezed shut. 30 seconds of silence followed, and then, barely a whisper. "Is she alive?" "Yes, ma'am. She is." Dorothy couldn't speak anymore. She just cried. Not loudly, not the screams that had been trapped inside her for 19 years, but quiet, trembling sobs of pure relief. Erika, alive. Meanwhile, in Georgia, the girl known as Erika Johnson sat in a small room inside a juvenile center, her life suddenly under a microscope. Officers were kind but confused. A routine school incident had required her fingerprints on file. That triggered a hit. She had no arrest record, nothing criminal. But she did have one thing, a past no one had ever told her about. It wasn't until the detective sat across from her that reality began to crumble. "Your name isn't Erika Johnson. Your name is Erika Antoinette Hill, and you were reported missing in 1990. She didn't move. didn't breathe. And when the officer reached into the folder and slid a photo across the table, a little girl with big brown eyes and pigtails, she stared at the picture in silence. The detective kept talking, something about DNA, something about her adoptive parents. But all she could hear was that name, Erika. She saw flashes, a playground, a man's hand, a car she didn't recognize, a voice calling behind her, distant and muffled. Erika! Everything she thought she knew was slipping through her fingers. Who was she, really? Who were the people who raised her? What had they done? 3 days later, still in shock, she was brought into a room. Dorothy was waiting. When Erika stepped inside, their eyes met, and time broke. There was no dramatic reunion, no slow-motion run, just a quiet, raw, shaking recognition. Erika's knees buckled. Dorothy ran to catch her. Then came the sobs, loud, desperate animal cries that echoed across 19 years of unanswered prayers. "Mom," Erika whispered, a word she thought she'd never say to a stranger again. Dorothy held her like she'd never let go, and in that moment, the world was suddenly right again. But somewhere within the reunion's warmth, a cold truth remained. Someone had taken her. Someone had raised her as their own. Someone had let an entire family suffer for almost 2 decades. And Erika, now 28 years old, suddenly had to face a question more terrifying than anything. Who was she really? And who had she really been living with all this time? The investigation into Erika's disappearance moved quickly, following her reappearance. Authorities zeroed in on the couple who had raised her, the people she had believed were her parents, for nearly 2 decades. They had always been quiet, ordinary. No criminal record, no suspicious activity. They attended church, hosted barbecues, kept a tidy yard, but their calm exterior hid a devastating truth. Her mother, Linda Johnson, finally broke under questioning. She confessed to a half-truth. She claimed she had found Erika wandering alone all those years ago, that she brought her home because she felt sorry for her. But a confession with that many holes didn't hold up long. The truth emerged through cold, methodical evidence. They had taken her intentionally. Linda and her husband, Mark, had struggled with infertility. In 1990, Mark's work brought him to Knoxville, Tennessee, just miles from where Erika vanished. The pieces lined up too perfectly to believe it was coincidence. They stole her. They raised her. They lied to her every single day. Erika's world shattered a second time. She sat in a courtroom listening as Linda and Mark stood trial. Not for kidnapping, too much time had passed for prosecution under old statutes, but for custodial interference and child endangerment. The verdict was swift. Guilty. Standing outside the courthouse after the sentencing, Erika faced a wall of reporters. She didn't speak much. She didn't cry. She simply said, "Life is complicated. People are complicated. But I know one thing. No matter what they told me to call them, I know who my real mom is now." Behind her, Dorothy stood, tears in her eyes, pride swelling in her throat. Today, Erika Hill lives quietly back in Tennessee. She keeps a close circle, reconnecting with siblings, rebuilding a life that was torn from her before she could speak a full sentence. But she also speaks publicly about hope, about survival, and about the importance of never giving up, even when the world feels completely silent. This story, Erika's story, is a testament to a mother's faith and a lost girl's strength. And if you're watching this, let me say this as plainly as I can. Never stop looking. never stop believing. Because sometimes the people we think are gone forever are just waiting to be found. If you found this story powerful, please like, share, and subscribe. It only takes a second, but it helps keep these stories alive and spreads hope to families still searching. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next unbelievable story of survival and justice. More solved mysteries. More stories that matter. This is true crime, but with a heartbeat.